Much for tuning in. Let's do a very short invocation. Then we can discuss chapter 6 of the 7th canto today. Just give me 1 second. There is a slight issue. Just 1 second. Okay, back all sorted. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanathimirantasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भागवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टुकी. By regularly reading and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, one is all that is troublesome to the heart will be destroyed, and loving devotion unto the Supreme Lord is established in due course. So, if you're in a position to read today, please raise your hand. This is a small chapter. There are only 30 verses. So we'll go with Meena Mataji for thank you, Mataji, for raising and for willing to read. Let me bring up the right screen. So that's the right one. So, right. Prahlad.
What chapter is it again? 6, did you say?
This is chapter 6.
Yeah.
7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah. I have the
so it is entitled Prahlad Instructs His Demonic Schoolmates. First 5 verses.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Just one moment. Got it. Prahlad Maharaj said, one who is sufficiently intelligent should use the human form of body from the very beginning of life. In other words, from the tender age of childhood, to practice the activities of devotional service, giving up all other engagements. The human body is most rarely achieved, and although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because in human life, one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. Text 2. The human form of life affords one a chance to return home back to Godhead. Therefore, every living entity, especially in the human form of life, must engage in devotional service to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. This devotional service is natural because Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the most beloved, the master of the soul, and the well-wisher of all other living beings. Text 3. Prahlad Maharaj continued, my dear friends, born of demoniac families, the happiness perceived with reference to the sense objects by contact with the body can be obtained in any form of life, according to one's past fruitive activities. Such happiness is automatically obtained without endeavor, just as we obtain distress. Text 4. Endeavors merely for sense gratification or material happiness through economic development are not to be performed, for they result only in a loss of time and energy with no actual profit. In one's endeavors, If one's endeavors are directed towards Krishna consciousness, one can surely attain the spiritual platform of self realization. There is no such benefit from engaging oneself in economic development. Next 5. Therefore, while in material existence, bhavam ashritaha, a person fully competent to distinguish right from wrong must endeavor to achieve the highest goal of life as long as the body is stout and strong and is not embarrassed by dwindling. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mataji.
Thank you.
So, in the previous chapter, entitled Prahlad, the saintly son of Hiranyakashipu, we discussed last Thursday, wherein Hiranyakashipu asks this particular question to Prahlad Maharaj. Does anybody remember what question he asked? He asks the same question twice.
What have you learned that is you found?
What is the best thing among?
Yeah.
Yeah, what is the best thing that you learned so far? And on 2 occasions, Prahlad's reply was same: a devotional service onto the lotus feet of the Lord Vishnu. So, and first time when he answered, Hiranyakashipu chastised Shanda and Amarka, the sons of Shukracharya, and asked them to teach Prahlad properly. And when, and the second time after they took Prahlad to the school, Gurukula again, taught him and brought him back to Hiranyakashipu. He asked the same question, and this time he answered like again, devotional service onto the Lord is the topmost, and one should engage in any of the 9 devotional processes to Lord Vishnu. And this time, Hiranyakashipu tried to chastise Shanda and Amarka again, but they said that, don't insult Brahmanas and it's not good for you. You will get, aparad, and that will not be good for you. So then they said, actually, we didn't teach all these things. It was very natural for him. And then he became very angry at Prahlad Maharaj, and then he asked Prahlad Maharaj where he had learned from. Prahlad Maharaj did not say where he had learned that science from. He just explained the process of devotion, and he said that those who are materialistic people, they will never be able to understand the process of devotion. And he did mention that if one wants to become a devotee, one must bathe in the dust of the lotus feet of a saintly person. Then only one will be able to understand. So after hearing this, Hiranyakashipu gone mad, and he ordered his his servants to actually kill him. Um, and they try to kill him by various means. And however, they could not harm Prahlad Maharaj in any way. Um, and because he was, he could not harm Prahlad Maharaj with all his endeavors. He became anxious. Mm. Um, so although he was controlling all the demigods, apart from three main deities, Brahma, Vishnu, Shivji, he was controlling everyone else in the universe. Yet he became terrified because he could not harm Prahlad Maharaj in any way. And Prahlad Maharaj was not fearful at all. uh, Abhayam, so he was fearless. Mm. So for us also the situation, the lesson is like, that is the lesson that we learned. We have to, when there are so many situations which cause disturbance to us, we must engage in devotion to the um, onto the Lord. We should intense our devotional service. Then the other people or the other situations, they will disappear. If someone is trying to cause harm, of course we will endeavor, but the message here that we should intensify our devotion. And in the meantime, Shanda and Amarka came to uh, Hiranyakashipu and said, "Don't worry, my dear king. He's only 5-year-old boy. He will do nothing. In due course, he will change. We will again take him back to Gurukula school and instruct him in diplomacy and economics and politics like that. He will change in due course. You don't worry," like that. And this is how Prahlad Maharaj went back to Gurukula school. And so this time, when the teachers were away for some break, Prahlad Maharaj would teach rather than spending his time playing. He would gather them and he would teach them Krishna consciousness. uh. So that's how the previous chapter ends. And here, what was he, what is he teaching? What was Prahlad Maharaj teaching to these demons is detailed in this chapter. uh. Um, so the first 5 verses, they talk about the right utility of human life. Hmm? So the famous verse, very often quoted by Prahlad Maharaj, and I would recommend that everyone maybe memorize this particular verse. Hmm? So Prabhupada you often quotes this verse. Shri Praharada Uvacha Kaumara Acharat Prajno Dharman Bhagavataniha Durlabham Manusham Janma Tadapyadruvam Artadham. This Manusham Janma, human life, this is Durlabham. It is very rare. Why it is very rare? We know that. Hmm? Why it is very rare?
Because you get it after lots of births and deaths.
Also,
After
only in this life.
8 million.
Hmm.
Also, in this, it's the only form of life where you can perform devotional service.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. So after passing through 8,400,000 species of life, it is said that one gets the human birth. It's very rare, durlabham. It is extremely rare. And as you said, um, generally, yes, only in the human form of life we have this facility. And have we seen any other animals gathering and discussing Bhagavatam? No. In some rare cases, Maharaj Bharat, in the form of deer, in the body of deer, he performed devotion. That is exceptional because he had done uh, devotion in the past life. Gajendra, elephant Gajendra, he also offered prayers because in the past life, as King Indradumna, he was rendering devotional service and he remembered that and he recited that prayer. Hmm? So, but so um, it is very, very rare to obtain this. And uh, Prabhupada says that, it is very rare, but what the modern education system is doing to the kids. So in the purport, Prabhupada writes, rather than teaching them to be engaged in devotional service, the modern education system teaches uh, how they should gratify their senses. Sense gratification is taught. Um, and then they will lose the human form, Prabhupada writes in the purport, and because of their addiction to sense gratification, they lose the human form and they go back to the lower species of life after this birth or after this life. So that is the main point Prabhupada highlights in the purport, and it says this is adruvam. Adruvam means this human life is temporary because this body is going to fall at some point. Although it is temporary, artadam, there is a meaning, wonderful meaning to this life because everybody can engage in the devotional service unto the Lord. That's why Prahlad says, Kaumara, right from the childhood only, people should be taught how they should be engaged in the devotional service. Um, so here it is said, even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one's complete perfection. Um, so yeah, so let's see. We have some more verses also I would like to share. So in the Bhagavatam, this is a famous verse which talks about the human form of life. 11, if anybody is making notes, it's 11:9:29. 11:9:29. Labdva sudhurlabam idam bahusambhavante manushamartadamanityamapi hadiraha purnam yete tanapatet anumrutyu yavan nihashreyasaya vishaya kalu sarvataha syat. After many, many births and deaths, one achieves the rare human form of life, which, although temporary, affords one the opportunity to attain the highest goal. highest perfection. Thus, a sober human being should quickly endeavor for the ultimate perfection of life, as long as his body, which is always subject to death, has not fallen down and died. We postpone things. I'll do it tomorrow. Hmm. Otherwise, when I become old, when I retire, or when I become old, I try to engage in devotion. But there is no guarantee, hmm, that you would be able to engage. So here it is clearly mentioned, which is always subject to death and has not fallen down and died. So we should do this before this body is given up. After all, sense gratification is available even in the most abominable species of life, whereas Krishna conscious is possible only for a human being. I think this verse sums up a lot. Talks about the sense gratification. Prahlad Maharaj is going to talk about that quite a bit. It is available in other species of life, but Krishna conscious is only possible in human being, for only human beings. Hmm? This is a beautiful verse, and so there is another verse also by Rishabdev. This is also a favorite verse of Prabhupada. Prabhupada used to quote this verse 551. 551. Rushabha Uvacha Nayam Deho Dehabajam Ruloke Kashtan Kaman Harhate Vidbhujam Ye Tapo Divyam Putrakayena Satvam Shudyet Yasmad Brahma Saukyam Tvanantam. Lord Rishabdev told his sons, my dear boys, of all living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs and hogs that eat stool. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotion. By such activity, one's heart is purified. And when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. So here also Rishabdev says the same thing, that one who has got this human form should not work day and night for sense gratification. And he says that sense gratification is available for animals. He says it's a heavy statement there, but that is a fact. Mm. And those who have taken the human form, they should uh, engage in devotional service, and which will purify one's heart and ultimately it gives blissful life. Mm. So these are the couple of verses I wanted to uh, recite. Okay, so stop sharing. Okay, we talked quite a bit on that, I guess. So let's. So then Prahlad Maharaj, he says that, yeah, so in this life, if you want, you can go back to Godhead. Hmm? So for that, one must engage in devotion onto the lotus feet of the Lord. Hmm? Uh, and he says this, this point. Yata dukkam ayatnataha. So don't over endeavor for happiness. Over endeavor. Yes, this is Prahlad Maharaj's statement. Don't over endeavor for sense gratification. Uh, and he says that yata dukkam ayatnataha. Are you endeavoring for misery? Without endeavoring for miseries, you are getting miseries. Similarly, whatever the sense gratification, whatever the happiness, you are destined, you will get it. So that's why he says this is an important point for us. He says that's why don't over endeavor for sense gratification and for happiness. Rather use that time effectively in worshipping the Lord. Prabhupada highlights one of the important points in this age, the simplest method in which we can engage in devotion, through which we can engage in devotional service is simply chanting Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama iva kevalam, kalau nasteva, nasteva, nasteva gatiranyataha. There is only Harinam, Harinam, Harinam. Nothing else, nothing else, nothing else will work in Kali Yuga. So this is the easiest way. This is another important point. Please make a note of that. Just like just as without endeavoring, we are getting miseries. We will also get the sense gratification by not over endeavoring. Whatever we are destined to get, we will get it. So that's why he says that use that time effectively to worship the Lord. Yeah, and we should not postpone. Before it dwindles, we must engage in devotional service. That is another point. So, okay. So we will move on. We have taken a bit of time, but we have given the background. So a couple of important points. It is very rare. Human form of life is very rare. And that's why it is very rare. And that's only in this life, in this form of life, we are able to engage in devotional service to Krishna. And although it is temporary, we can use it for attaining the ultimate perfection of life, that is going back to the spiritual world. So rather than over endeavoring for sense gratification, use that time in worshipping Krishna, and we must perfect our life before this body falls down, before it dwindles. Yeah, so some of the very important points. While I was reading, I felt that it really motivated me to read Bhagavatam every day, to engage, to intensify my own devotion. So really motivated me, these verses. So that's why reading scriptures and hearing on a regular basis is very important, because of this conditioning, and we get carried away in the material world. Bhava pravaha, it's a flow, current. It's coming like, constant things happening in the material world. We get carried away in that flow. But when we read and hear, then it reminds us. So that's why it is important that we do this on a regular basis. Okay, right. So next, 6 to 6 till 18. Jisha Mataji, please.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Text 6. Every human being has a maximum duration of life of 100 years, but for one who cannot control his senses, half of those years are completely lost because at night he sleeps 12 hours, being covered by ignorance. Therefore, such a person has a lifetime of only 50 years.
Yeah,
Text
just 1
7.
second. 1 second, we'll explain as you go. Yeah. So this is clearly, explained here. So if every being has lifespan of 100 years. Brahma lives is 100 years, ant lives its 100 years, like that. So we live 100 years, human beings. But if one sleeps for 12 hours, 50 years gone in sleep, being wasted. So how the human life is misused is detailed here. Yes, 50 years of that life gone in sleeping. Next, Mataji.
Text 7. In the tender age of childhood, when everyone is bewildered, one passes 10 years. Similarly, in boyhood, engaged in sporting and playing, one passes another 10 years. In this way, 20 years are wasted. Similarly, in old age, when one is an invalid, unable to perform even material activities, one passes another 20 years wastefully.
Yeah. So 50 years gone, and you have 50 years remaining, assuming one lives for 100 years. It's not guaranteed. But out of that remaining 50 years, Prahlad Maharaj says, you know, uh, 10 years in childhood and boyhood, another 10 years sporting and, playing. So another 20 years are gone, wasted in during the childhood and youth, hmm, gone. So another 20 is gone. So 50 minus 20, then you have 30 years. Out of 30, what happens in the old age? Another 20 years gone. You can't function very well. Hmm. So you only have 10 years, and that too, that 10 years is used in the family life. Nothing is remaining for Krishna. Please carry on.
Text 8. One whose mind and senses are uncontrolled becomes increasingly attached to family life because of insatiable lusty desires and very strong illusion. In such a madman's life, the remaining years are also wasted because even during those years he cannot engage himself in devotional service.
Yeah,
What
carry on.
what person too attached to household life due to being unable to control his senses can liberate himself? An attached householder is bound very strongly by ropes of affection for his family, wife, children, and other relatives. Money is so dear that one conceives of money as being sweeter than honey. Therefore, who can give up the desire to accumulate money, especially in household life? Thieves, professional servants, soldiers, and merchants try to acquire money even by risking their very dear lives.
Yeah, we'll just to take a break moment there, just a pause there. So Prahlad Maharaj talks quite a bit about this family life. Uh, um, so it is quite natural that in the family life, you know, we get carried away because there are so many um, things that will distract us from devotion, partner, children, family members, so on and so forth. There is, affection, and we get carried away. But one point, please remember, I am highlighting now itself that for us, uh, if we can, Prabhupada has given a schedule. a recipe. Even in the family life, also we can engage in devotion. Mm. We should have a program for ourselves, a morning program, wherein we get up early, we read scriptures, we chant, and we worship the Lord, and we hear also sometimes Srimad Bhagavatam. Mm. And we should associate with devotees just like this. Most of all of us are grihasthas, but on Thursday, though it's a working day, some or other we are able to make that little time for Krishna, 1 hour. Mm. It is very important. It will motivate us to read more. Mm. Sometimes we think, what can we do? Why should we attend? But they are not able to make any progress. I've seen it. Though it is simple, but this constantly, regularly doing this activity will motivate us. Mm. And I'm sure all of you are able to agree on that. So we should have a program for ourselves, and that is about family life. And this money factor is mentioned. The money is sweeter than honey. Prabhupada writes, for a family, for a householder. And uh, so thieves, professional servants, soldiers, merchants try to acquire money even by risking their very dear lives. Thieves, they know they may get caught, they may be killed, but yet they risk their life for money. And the soldiers here mentioned, uh, and they also um, working for the country, risking their own life, working for the king, risking for their life, for money. And merchants, the business people, they move one place to another place, one endeavor after another thing. They're risking by moving to several places like this. So um, so money, everybody is risking. So rather than risking, if we can also, but try and risk our life for Krishna, then our life will be successful. So please move on, Mataji.
Text 11 to 13. How can a person who is most affectionate to his family, the core of his heart being always filled with their pictures, give up their association? Specifically, a wife is always very kind and sympathetic and always places her husband in a solitary place. Who could give up the association of such a dear and affectionate wife? Small children talk in broken language, very pleasing to hear, and their affectionate father always thinks of their sweet words. How could he give up their association? One's elderly parents and one's sons and daughters are also very dear. A daughter is especially dear to her father, and while living at her husband's house, she is always in his mind. Who could give up that association? Aside from this, in household affairs, there are many decorated items of household furniture, and there are also animals and servants. Who could give up such comforts? The attached householder is like a silkworm which weaves a cocoon in which it becomes imprisoned, unable to get out, simply for the satisfaction of two important senses, the genitals and the tongue. One is bound by material conditions. Text 14.
How can, yeah, question. Yeah. How can one escape?
Yeah. Shall I carry on, Prabhuji?
Yeah.
Text 14. One who is too attached cannot understand that he is wasting his valuable life for the maintenance of his family. He also fails to understand that the purpose of human life, a life suitable for realization of the absolute truth, is being imperceptibly spoiled. However, he is very cleverly attentive to seeing that not a single farthing is lost by mismanagement. Thus, although an attached person in material existence always suffers from threefold miseries, he does not develop a distaste for the ways of material existence.
Yeah, one important point here. So here, this is an important point here. Thus, although an attached person in material existence always suffers from threefold miseries, there is always suffering in. Yet one does not develop distaste for the way of materialistic existence. Even though, we suffer for, uh, suffer in order to enjoy sense gratification. But yet, we will never get distaste. Once Yudhishthir Maharaj says, this ahani ahani bhutani gachantiha yamalayam sheshas tavaramichanti kimacharyam mataparaha. Day by day, day after day, several living entities, they are giving up their body and they are reaching the abode of Lord Yama, hmm? Yamalayam. So they're going to the hell, many living entities. Yet the remaining people, seeing their family members, their friends, and their colleagues, and other people around them giving up their body, they think they they are going to be eternal, or they desire an eternal life in this world. What is the most astonishing than this? Hmm. So human beings, although they suffer, you know, um, in this world, but they will never develop distaste for the material thing. Hmm. Um, Please carry on, Mataji.
Text 15. If a person too attached to the duties of a family maintenance is unable to control his senses, the core of his heart is immersed in how to accumulate money. Although he knows that one who takes the wealth of others will be punished by the law of the government and by the laws of emirage after death, he continues cheating others to acquire money. Text 16. O my friends, sons of demons, in this material world, even those who are apparently advanced in education have the propensity to consider this is mine and that is for others. Thus, they are always engaged in providing the necessities of life to their families in a limited conception of family life, just like uneducated cats and dogs. They are unable to take to spiritual knowledge. Instead, they are bewildered and overcome by ignorance. Text 17 and 18. My dear friends, O sons of the demons, it is certain that no one bereft of knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead has been able to liberate himself from material bondage at any time or in any country. Rather, those bereft of knowledge of the Lord are bound by the material laws. They are factually addicted to sense gratification, and their target is women. Indeed, they are actually playthings in the hands of attractive women. Victimized by such a conception of life, they become surrounded by children, grandchildren, and great grandchildren, and thus they are shackled to material bondage. Those who are very much addicted to this conception of life are called demons. Therefore, although you are sons of demons, keep aloof from such persons and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, the originator of all the demigods, because the ultimate goal for the devotees of Narayana is liberation from the bondage of material existence.
Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, so in this section, Prahlad Maharaj talks about how the human life is misused, and he's advising them, the sons of demons, You, even though you are the sons of demon, you should not associate with materialistic people. Rather, you should worship the Supreme Lord, and you should associate with the devotees of Lord Narayan. So that is what he advises. And then he talks about how Supreme Lord is worshipped. So he gives instructions on worshipping the Supreme Lord. So who is willing to read the next section?
I will read.
Okay, so from text 19 till 26.
19 till 26. Okay. Text 19. My dear sons of demons, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, is the original super soul, the father of all living entities. Consequently, there are no impediments to pleasing him or worshipping him under any conditions, whether one be a child or an old man. The relationship between the living entities and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always a fact, and therefore there is no difficulty in pleasing the Lord.
Yeah.
Text 20 to 23. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller, who is infallible and indefatigable, is present in different forms of life, from inert living beings, Stavara, such as plants, to Brahma, the foremost created living being. He is also present in the varieties of material creations and in the material elements, the total material energy, and the modes of material nature, Sattvaguna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna, as well as the unmanifested material nature and the false ego. Although he is one, he is present everywhere. And he is also the transcendental supersoul, the cause of all causes, who is present as the observer in the course of the hearts of all living entities. He is indicated as that which is pervaded and as the all pervading supersoul. But actually, he cannot be indicated. He is changeless and undivided. He is simply perceived as the supreme Satchidananda, eternity, knowledge, and bliss. Being covered by the curtain of the external energy, to the atheist he appears non existent. 24. Therefore, my dear young friends born of demons, please act in such a way that the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the conception of material knowledge, will be satisfied. Give up your demoniac nature and act without enmity or duality. Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, thus becoming their well wishers. 25. Nothing is unobtainable for devotees who have satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the cause of all causes, the original source of everything. The Lord is the reservoir of unlimited spiritual qualities. For devotees, therefore, who are transcendental to the modes of material nature, what is the use of following the principles of religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation, which are all automatically obtainable under the influence of the modes of nature? We devotees always glorify the lotus feet of the Lord, and therefore we need not ask for anything in terms of dharma, kama, artha, and moksha. 26. Religion, economic development, and sense gratification. These are described in the Vedas as three varga, or three ways to salvation. Within these three categories are education and self realization, ritualistic ceremonies performed according to Vedic injunctions, logic, the science of law and order, and the various means of earning one's livelihood. These are the external subject matters of study in the Vedas, and therefore I consider them material. However, I consider surrender to the lotus feet of the Lord Vishnu to be transcendental.
So quite important section. So Prahlad Maharaj says firstly in text 19. So yeah. Yeah, so he says that there are no impediments to please Lord Vishnu. Anybody can worship him under any condition, he says. We know that from Bhagavad Gita, Lord is pleased with one's devotion. We know that patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti uparutamashnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me a leaf, flower, fruit, or little water with bhakti, with devotion, Krishna says he accepts it. And no one is bored from the devotion. As a child, Prahlad himself engaged in devotion. Dhruva Maharaj engaged in devotion. Age is not a bore. And as a old man, Ajamil also engaged. So, but don't follow the example of Ajamil and don't postpone your devotion. What, Sri?
Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you. And then Prahlad Maharaj talks about this Lord being everywhere. He is present in the heart of Brahma, to down to the ant, also in the heart of ant. In all beings, also trees and other living entities, even non-movable beings, also is there everywhere. Um, so and then he says, because he is there in everyone's heart, so you should show mercy to every living entity. So how should you show mercy to every living entity? This is, I got into a new page. When you in too many pages, this is what happened, right? Right. Sorry. So I'll come back 197624. That's the one. So he says, Tasmat Sarveshu Bhuteshu, after instructing that Lord is present in every living entity, then he says, Tasmat Sarveshu Bhuteshu Dayam Kuruta Surudham. You should show mercy onto every living beings, and you should be friend. You should maintain friendly relationship with every living entity. Yeah. Dayam kuruta surudam bhavam asuram unmuchata. Give up this demonic mentality. Yaya tushyat adokshajaha. This way you can please Lord Krishna. So here, how do we show mercy to all the living entities? Prabhupada writes here, show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, thus becoming their well-wisher. Prabhupada was a great well-wisher because he took pain to go to America, and he instructed them in devotional service. Prabhupada was well-wisher. That was true well-wisher. So if we want to become well-wisher and well-wisher of everyone and to show mercy to all the living entities. Here, Prabhupada indicates that we should teach them devotional service. That means first we learn the science of devotion, and then we educate others also in the science of devotion. Hmm? Um, the word suvrudam, friendliness, is very significant in this verse. People are generally ignorant of Krishna consciousness, and therefore, to become their best well-wisher, one should teach them about Krishna consciousness without discrimination. Since the Supreme Lord Vishnu is situated in the core of everyone's heart, everybody is a temple of Vishnu. Wow. One should not misuse this understanding as an excuse for such words as Daridra Narayana. If Narayana lives in the house of a Daridra, a poor man, this does not mean that Narayana becomes poor. He lives everywhere, in the houses of poor and those of the rich. But in all circumstances, he remains Narayana. To think that he becomes either poor or rich is material calculation. He is always Shadaishwarya Purna, full in six opulences in all circumstances. So Prabhupada highlights that because Lord is there in everyone's heart, so to show friendly, we should, because they are ignorant of Krishna consciousness, Krishna, we should engage them, we should teach them or instruct them in devotional service. So then Prahlad Maharaj says, as a devotee, you can achieve everything. Vedeshu, yajneshu, tapassu chaiva, daneshu yat punya palam pratishtam tatyeti sarvamitam. Atyeti tatsarvamitam viditva yogi param shanti mupaiti chadyam. By reading Vedas, by undergoing penances, by giving charity, by all other processes, whatever one gets, a devotee automatically gets, not by doing them, but simply by worshipping the Lord, he gets everything. Devotees don't ask. Karmis ask for sense gratification. Jnanis wants liberation. But devotees say they will just simply they work for the pleasure of Krishna. Um, we devotees always glorify the lotus feet of the Lord, and therefore we need not to ask for anything in terms of dharma, artha, kama. The Vedas and in the Bhagavad Gita also it says Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nishtraigunyo Bhavarjuna. The Vedas mainly deal with three modes of material nature. So does anybody know why Vyasdev was despondent after compiling all the Vedic literature? Who would like to answer?
Prabhuji, he hadn't put emphasis on the Lord and his activities. He'd explained a lot about the various kinds of rituals. He never actually put emphasis on devotional service.
Yes, you are right. He had given preference to this other things, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, religion, sense gratification, and acquiring wealth, and after that, then liberation. So that's why he was despondent. Narada identified the root cause for his despondency. Even after writing the Vedas, compiling other things, he was despondent. He was not satisfied. Narada says, because you have not fully glorified the Lord. So, and that's why you are despondent. And then he tells his own story, that how devotional service, brought him from, transformed him from a Shudra to Narada, just by simply associating with the transcendentalist. So he tells his own story, glorifies devotion, and he asks Vasudev, he instructs Vasudev to compile Srimad Bhagavatam in order to glorify exclusively glorify Lord Krishna. So Prahlad Maharaj also talks about that. So some of the rituals that are given in the Vedas and other places, they are inferior. But actually worshipping exclusively Krishna is the most important thing. Even Vasudev was despondent. What to speak of other people, even by reading and following certain rituals? If Vasudev was not satisfied, how can you be satisfied? Vasudev was satisfied with devotion. So we will also be satisfied when we engage in the devotional service of the Lord. So then we have just three more verses. So we'll read that and conclude this chapter. Who would like to read these few verses from 27 till 30?
If nobody, I can read, Prabhuji.
Please go on, Mataji, quick.
Text 27. Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the well-wisher and friend of all living entities, formally explained this transcendental knowledge to the great Saint Narad. Such knowledge is extremely difficult to understand without the mercy of a saintly person like Narad. But everyone who has taken shelter of Narad's disciplic succession can understand this confidential knowledge. Text 28. Prahlad Maharaj continued, I received this knowledge from the great Saint Narad Muni, who is always engaged in devotional service. This knowledge, which is called Bhagavad Dharma, is fully scientific. It is based on logic and philosophy and is free from all material contamination. Text 29 to 30. The sons of the demons replied, Dear Prahlad, neither you, nor we, nor any teacher or spiritual master other than Sanda and Amarka, the sons of Shukracharya. After all, we are children, and they our controllers. For you especially, who always remain within the palace, it is very difficult to associate with a great personality. Dear friend, most gentle one, would you kindly explain how it was possible for you to hear Narad? Kindly dispel our doubts in this regard. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. So this verse is so important that text 27 is very, very important. So after talking about instructing them in devotion, he then tells that, this transcendental knowledge is given to saints like Narada. They know it. They are devotees of the Lord. And if you want to understand, that's why you have to follow these, following the footsteps of great people such as Narada. They are called Mahajans. And then he says, so, if you are in the disciplic succession of Narada, saints like Narada, and you will be able to get Prabhupada writes, we are in the disciplic succession of Narada. From Krishna to Brahma, Brahma to Narada, Narada to Vyasa, Vyasa to Madhvacharya, and Madhvacharya to our Madhavendra Puri, and from Madhavendra Puri to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Prabhupada. We are in this disciplic succession. And then he talks about this important point. Padaravinda Rajasa Plukta Dehinam Syat. So if one actually wants to become a devotee, the process is that one should bathe oneself in the dust of the lotus feet of a devotee, pure devotee. So that means basically we should take the association and follow their instructions. And after this point came in the previous chapter also, but he repeats here. And you see, even Vasdev, when he had spiritual master, Narada, he was blessed by Narada. So he followed instructions of Narada. He asked question, what is the root cause for his despondency? And when Narada replied, and when Narada asked him to compile Bhagavatam, he did so. So that's how Vasudev perfected his life. So if you see all great personalities, they have their own spiritual master and they served their spiritual master. After saying this, I also received this wonderful secret knowledge because of the mercy of Narada Muni. And then the sons of demons, they say, you're always in the palace or in the school, where you do not have access to associate with Narad Muni. Would you kindly explain how is it possible that you have heard these wonderful signs from Narad Muni? So this is how he was questioned by the sons of demons, and Prahlad would explain the secret in the next chapter. Okay, so in this chapter, quickly, in 1 minute, so let's summarize. Prahlad Maharaj in the beginning talks about the right utility of human life is to engage in devotional service unto the Lord from the tender age. One should not postpone. Okay, and the human life is misused in sense gratification. Out of 100 years, 50 years gone in sleeping, 20 years during childhood and boyhood, in playing things and ignorance, 20 gone. In old age, another 20 gone. One only left with 10 more years. That 10 will also gone in the family life. So nothing is remaining. One should not misuse the time like that. So then he says, don't over endeavor for sense gratification, because even if you're not endeavoring, we are getting misery. Similarly, we get the destined, whatever the destined sense gratification we get, we are whatever is destined, we get it. So that's why don't over endeavor for sense gratification, rather use that time for devotion. Then he instructs sons of demons to engage in the devotional service to Lord Vishnu, and ask them to be merciful to all the living entities, because Lord is there in everyone's heart. How should one show the mercy? By teaching every living being about Krishna consciousness. And this is the best welfare activity. Then Prahlad Maharaj talks about that this most confidential devotional service is given to Narada in the disciplic succession. And I've also received this science from Narada. So I've heard it from Narada. And so when he explained like this, the sons of demons were wondering how he heard, and because he was always in the palace or in the school, and there was no chance for him to meet sage Narada. So they asked to explain how he heard from Narada Muni. So that's how this chapter ends. We will stop there. Thank you so much for your time. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
so much, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Hare Krishna.